Thank you for joining us on this edition of Say a Prayer Guy. May Nigeria never happen to you. My name is Richie Adewusi. This podcast is brought on the platform of Nostalgiamedia. And today we are following the programs we had laid out at the very beginning of this whole project concept. We're exactly where we plan to be from day one, but we didn't envisage, the events that have unfolded in Nigeria at this time. It's instructive that those events have unfolded and they're unfolding, still unfolding. And when I say unfolded and still unfolding, I will implore, please, okay, a few episodes behind, I said, oh, I didn't know why, I didn't remember to say what I needed to say at the very beginning. It was there in my presentation profiles and all of that. But, today I won't, okay, please. I want to speak to young people. Please. If you're a Nigerian, you're 50 years and below, please come around. You need to listen. You need to. This is not about, oh, he wants to trend, he wants. I do things that I'm convinced need to be done. Not because I want anybody to clap for me or, and when we're about starting this whole podcast, I received a lot. Why do you want to do this? I said, look, it looks like the people who are in charge of Nigeria, they're not listening. The people who have put themselves forward to, help Nigerians at least remain human, they're not listening. And we started this 12 weeks ago. 12 weeks ago is how many months? So it's not today, it's not because of any particular thing that has happened that we started this. And my whole thing going forward was to tell my Biafra story, to say this should not happen again, which is why, not was, which is why I wrote that book. And I had it reissued this year, the second edition of that book, in July of this year. By that time, I still repeated it in the preface of the updated second edition that of all the things I have said, don't let this happen, all everything that happened is except one, as at July. And what was that one thing? The coup. Not because I'm clapping, no, I talked about that 15 years ago. I wrote that book 15 years ago, 2010. It was published globally in January of 2011. And the reason for that delay, I had wanted the book released on my birthday in December, on the 8th of December. And it was on track for being released on the 8th of December. But it got delayed because I recalled the manuscript because of an incident that happened on the 1st of October 2010 at Eagle Square, bombings in Abuja. Go back to history, if you go check. And I have spoken that politicians, if they don't get what they want, if they feel shuffled out, they wouldn't mind bombing, terrorist behaviors and, instigations and all of that to get their way, to level the playing decks again and call them their friends who are in the military to come to take over so that, everything gets level again and they get back to the front again. What's happening now? Some people have felt shuffled out. And make no mistake about it, what year are we in? 2025. By this time, 1965, Chief Obafemi Awolowo was in prison. for treason, accused of plotting a coup. By this time of 1965, today, Nnamdi Kanu is in prison. Well, his issue and Chief Obafemi Awolowo were not the same. Okay, they're not the same. And please, I want to make a clarification here about comments I made in the last episode about Nnamdi Kanu and his incarceration. People have reached out to me to say, "Whoa, Richie, so you mean that?" No, maybe you didn't hear me. You guys are late, even in terms of organizing a releasing Nnamdi Kanu campaign or protest. You're late. The same way I recall, I mentioned it last, those people who sent me those messages, you are not following, or you just listened in part, or you had not joined the podcast as at the time I went through that. I recalled this book. Please, the Promise Kept, please. I recalled Promise Kept. It's a story I used my relationship with one of Nigeria's iconic musicians, Majek Fashek, who I worked at functioned as his publicist for a number of years. And he requested before he died that, please, if he died before me, I should tell his story. And I, obliged by telling the story. But I used that book to look at a whole lot of issues in Nigeria. I had sent this book for release when in February of this year, General Ibrahim Babangida introduced his book. And I watched that program all through. And I listened eventually to when General Babangida spoke. Then the present president of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, also made his own speech. And I said, no, this can't go. Well, if two of you have agreed that one is a student, one is a teacher, that the teacher should teach the student one more thing, should teach the student, please, step aside. Please do Nigeria a favor. Do yourself a favor. Do Nigeria a favor. Not because it's not your right to contest election. Be a good father. Be a good statesman. Pick somebody, back somebody. Step aside. Do you think General Babangida liked to be out of power? Oh, he didn't like that, but he saw his colleagues didn't want him anymore. And he was sensible. He moved aside. And I said, okay, please, I wrote it. That's the reason I recorded this book you're looking at. And I said one more thing. And I said, teach, please, also, teacher, teach your student one more thing. Please. Nnamdi Kanu was abducted illegally. I mean, international law, whichever law, was not right to go and abduct him from Kenya. And he's been incarcerated. Please do one more thing. Release him. You are making him larger than life. So it has nothing to do with my saying that he doesn't understand that he's part of the problem. Of course, he's part of the problem. They all know they are part of the problem. But it doesn't mean he doesn't have a right as a human being. I said, so you are doing a protest last week or 2 weeks ago, whichever time. I wrote that in a book that's available internationally. Release him. If you feel he has committed some, then try him properly and speedily, and let the laws of the land take their course. But to keep him there in a book. So anybody is saying that, I'm saying that the way they kept him here, of course it's not good. Of course it's not the current president that put him in prison, no? But he's the president, that's the point. The people who put him there are no longer in power. But he's the one in power. He can release him. As a matter of fact, I thought he would have been one of those that would have received state pardon on the 1st of October. But they're playing politics with all of this. And Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, I'm not your fan. And I've said why. It's the approach, your understanding of the issues of the Southeast. The same problem that the whole of Nigeria has. It's the same thing we were trying to recreate in the Southeast. You want freedom is good. I mean, being recognized, being included in national issues, national affairs, benefiting from the resources of Nigeria like other zones in Nigeria. It's a good thing that for any, but you want those things and you are not consulting. You did not consult the other ethnic nationalities around the Southeast. It's not the only Igbos. Igbos are widespread into other ethnic nationalities. True. But there was no consultation, which is also why the present the umpires, because that's what it is now, umpires. If anybody is, I mean, under any illusion that anything has been resolved. And one other thing I will tell you, Nigerians, 50 years below, I'm concerned because that's where my children are, their age brackets. I'm concerned for them and their generation. I'm concerned for my grandchildren and their generation. The people who have been ruling Nigeria are not concerned about anybody else. It's just them and their children and their families. And that's why Fela called them beasts of no nation. So they will gang up, not brought together by tribe, not brought together by religion, but brought together by sharing, by work. And whenever they are not able to agree on a sharing formula, they fight. They now call the rest of us. Is unable. And that's why what's happening now is it's not good. It's all of the Yorubas that are clapping, all of the other whoever that are clapping in the South. Tinubu has the showing Fulani. Please, please, I have an understanding. Which Fulani? Which Hausa? Which North? Which is the poorest region in Nigeria? Which is the most, deprived educationally in terms of children, the literacy? Which? And this is why I'm going to play for you again today. I played it. It's not that of hatred. It's to draw your attention to where these problems started. And they have not been solved. Before last week, failed coup. They finally, if they are pursuing people and say they sponsored something, so they have agreed that there was a coup, well, an aborted coup. Okay, so it's not anybody now saying, is there a coup or is there no coup? No. They have accepted. But then, has the presidency made any statement, about address Nigerians about that? No, it's the military that has been speaking. Is Nigeria under military rule right now? It's the military that has been speaking. It's almost as if military is conducting its investigation in the public domain. That's one, it's not right too. That's not the way the military operates. I mean, I'm old enough to know. I've watched 9 coups. I mean, the ones that happened, and other ones that were aborted in my lifetime. So you don't need any prophet to tell you that nothing is over. It's not because I'm wishing for anything. And the way the presidency is handling it now is making it worse. It's north and south. No. When is Nigeria and Nigerians going to learn to hold individuals who have done wrong accountable and stop adding wherever they come from, or what they worship, how they worship, or what languages they speak? These people themselves use the names of their tribe, name the religions they worship, profess, the language they speak, to drag their people inside what their people knew nothing about. I feel very vexed over this. This is not my issue today, is corruption, but this is the main corruption. It's not bribery, give me money before you get. We'll come to that. When I get to talk about this guy behind me, and all those logos you are looking at, I'll come to that. He's the case study for why Nigeria is where it is now. And why you should know that the people who are doing what they are doing now, you're clapping for, they don't have you. They don't have you in mind at all. And when I say you, I mean Nigeria. I played you a video last week, last episode, last podcast of President Goodluck Jonathan's suggestion. And I agree with that. You see, anybody that will come forward to say, I want to rule Nigeria, that would not unite Nigeria and Nigerians. No. That's the first assignment. That has to be the first. But right now, that's not. Somebody is, you're gathering, calling governors who have things to answer for in terms of what has been entrusted to them vis-a-vis what they have been able to do within their tenures. You have joined our party, like the ones who have joined, who committed so many things. Some of them were indicted, and those things just went cold. So that's why I'm talking to you, young Nigerians. 50, I'm not a 50-year-old. I'm an old man. Okay? 50 and below. Begin to look at people you will hold accountable, people you will say, no, this one should not near any public office, and mean it. Stop reacting. You're reacting. And watch social media is filled with video. Yes, they are dealing with the Fulani. Which Fulani? I know some fine Fulani friends, colleagues. I have nothing to do. They are as impacted with the bad governance as the rest of anybody from any part of Nigeria. So don't mistake the people who have positioned themselves, who have been emasculating Nigeria and then plundering the resources of Nigeria, keeping Nigerians in poverty. They don't represent all the Fulanis. They don't. They are crying. Not their rulers, not their elites. Understand this. So if you now have in Nigeria, you say there's a coup, and from what we have read and we are reading, the bulk of those who are supposed to be behind the coup are from the north. So you made it a northern thing. Wrong. You've divided the Nigerian army. You see, sir, Mr. President, I think you need to go and study the history. I know you, people around you, but study more. Because time, 1965, I was a child of maybe about 6 years. I didn't know what was happening. My parents were going about, some people, it wasn't even probably, in the Southwest, it was the Southwest. And don't be surprised again, this time it will also be from the Southwest. Okay, the Ekiti election, the Osun election, and, the Southwest. By this time, it didn't look like anything was going to happen to any other part of Nigeria. Today is the 31st of October. But people woke up on the 1st of January, 1966. And remember again, by this time, 1965, there had been a failed coup, the Awo coup. Whether anybody will say he didn't, they found him guilty, they jailed him about it. So it's history, it's historical. There's nothing to beg on the issue. Okay? So my saying Nnamdi Kanu is part of the problem doesn't mean he should continue to be. If he's guilty, if you try him properly, why hold him? Why all the drama? You're making, and I was glad when I saw a video online about Southeastern governor. That meeting is at least 6-7 years late, but thank God it happened eventually. to say Nnamdi Kanu, IPOB, not the problem of insecurity in the South. They had never been. The federal government had heightened the double standard and all of that. The Odua and Amotekun could go into the forest last week or whatever to go flush out, to go arrest terrorists, bandits. Why is it not okay, all right, for Southeastern vigilante groups and youths to also enter their own forest? And no, who is stopping them? Nigerian army, the Nigerian government. And you said they should keep quiet. And let me tell you something again. You don't understand the Igbos. You see, the stalemate, Nigeria is in a stalemate now. Forget story. It's in a stalemate. The current president and his current administration cannot win re-election with votes from the Southwest. You know, not possible. It's obvious that the North has rejected them. And they are trying to make the APC, their party, a Southern party, trying to co-opt the Eastern government. The Eastern governors, your politician friends from the East, Southeast, they are not the people. You don't understand the Igbos. Go and check their relationship with warrant chiefs. You don't understand them. Then, not only that is their governors, the ones who are dealing with them, that they are just enduring because they are law-abiding people. The Igbos are the most law-abiding group in Nigeria. Quote me, go and check, go and research. They love peace until you push them. That's the point. And they are being pushed. What caused the civil war? Did Ojukwu step out and say he wants to? It was self-defense. It was push. They had to defend themselves. Now, the Igbos you are saying, okay, South, you want to have a South against North. Which South against North? Do you have a South? You are demolishing their businesses, their properties in Lagos. You are renaming streets named after you. How many Igbos are in that cabinet that are not your associate? I mean, people who got there by merit, not associates, friends, loyalists that you pick. How many? So where is the vote going to come from? To how? And even if by any whatever you get, you remain in office, what manner of governance? What? People are saying Fulani hegemony, Fulani oligarchy, Fulani. So we want you. It's to replace Fulani. If that's, of course, Fulani elites have not done the North any good. Now, I want to take you back to where this whole thing started, so we get it right. Guys, please, can you play me Sir Ahmad Bello's video again? Listen very carefully. Watch the date. Watch the date. When we talk about corruption, it's not just money. It's not ask for bribe. It's policies, actions, inactions, utterances. Okay? When you watch that video, as you listen carefully, I will just, hold my peace for you to listen to that video, listen to that interview, northernization that eventually became
one thing I've noticed, Premier, while I've been here, is that Northerners seem to have, I mean, almost call an obsession about the Igbos.
Let me hold my
Could you perhaps explain that to me?
Well, the Igbos are more or less the type of people whose desire is mainly to dominate everybody. If they go to a village, to a town, they want to monopolize everything in that area. If you put them in a labor camp as a laborer, within a year they will try to emerge as headman of that camp, and so on. Well, in the past, our people were not alive to their responsibilities, because you can see from our northernization policy that in 1952, when I came here, there weren't 10 Northerners in our civil service here. Then I tried to have it northernized, and now all important posts are being held by Northerners.
Is this policy of filling all key posts in the North solely with Northerners and not with other Nigerians a temporary or a permanent one?
In actual fact, what it is a Northerner first. If you can't get a Northerner, then we take an expatriate like yourself on contract. If we can't, then we can employ another Nigerian, but on contract too. This is going to be permanent, I should say, as far as I can foresee, because it will be rather dangerous to see the number of boys who are now turning from all our learning institutions, coming out with having no work to do. I'm sure whichever government of the day might be, it will feel rather embarrassed, and it might even lead to bloodshed.
Doesn't this damage the idea, sir, of all people in all regions in Nigeria being fellow citizens of one country?
Well, it might, but you are, new to our region, but how many Northerners are employed in the East or in the West? The answer is no. And if there are, there may be 10 laborers employed only in the two regions.
Yes, well, welcome back from watching the video. It's not funny. I'm not laughing. That's a respected, highly influential Nigerian father, leader. That was what corrupted, and they were in charge. That video, you saw the date, 1964. His party, when I say they, please remember, I'm not saying Fulani was in charge. His party. Please let Nigerians learn to separate politicians from the people. Please, please. They are pushing you now to go on to kill yourselves for them. If you have not realized that this is where this is headed, then you are joking. You want to rule a country, imbibe, embrace dialogue, compromise, involve people, stop acting with impunity. If some people did it in the past, they did it, yes, that's why I'm playing you that video. They did it, but must you repeat it? Must you? That's 62 years ago. And by that time, Awo was in prison. He was talking about Igbos, but then they've already, as far as they are concerned, they have dealt with the Yorubas. So it remained the Igbos. So you have to deal with them so that, they were in bed with Akintola. If you know the story, go and check. That time, they were in bed with Akintola. So it was only the Igbo area, the eastern region, that they had to deal with. The military had been radicalized, just like it has been radicalized now. The military, I didn't say Yoruba, but the military had been radicalized. Unfortunately, the people Awo and his group radicalized, the Igbo officers were in the majority by the reason of the number of Igbos in the higher echelon of the officer corps. They were the ones who stepped forward. What were their complaints? Corruption. How the politicians were leading. Loss of lives and property of ordinary people, Nigerian civilians. Those were part of them. Where is corruption today? Why are we talking about it as a program today? The people who are there, should they have gotten there in the first place? If everybody was normal in Nigeria, on the spectrum of corruption. And you see, This is a case study. I will prove it to you. The person who is your president now was a governor in Lagos State in this case study when I get there. Himself and his wife. I don't talk about things I don't know anything about. And when we started this, we said, may Nigeria never happen to you. And I said, I will tell you stories about how Nigeria happened to me and it happened for me. We started this whole streams of bringing to your notice what successive military administration tried to do to unite Nigeria and Nigerians. Even when there were military regimes that fought that war. That's why we started this project on a quest for one Nigeria, profiling the different and various things, different military administration up until President Olusegun Obasanjo's civilian government. Go and check things that were national. Let's go and check the composition of President Obasanjo's cabinet from 1999 to his second term. Go and check the composition of that cabinet. Come back now, check the composition of the cabinet of the present administration. Okay? The military knew that there was a need for healing. For the present administration has been doing. Last episode was shaking the bloody giant inside. It had been dividing, doing everything to divide people to win election. So when you win election, when you remain enough, who are you going to govern? Dead people? Or you've not seen where this is headed? That's my concern. That is my concern. And that was why I wrote this book. Please, the Biafra book and Hajar Maria Aliyu. That's why I wrote this book. And that's why I am going to end this season. We are ending this season next week, and we'll take a break from the live stream till the 2nd of January. It was planned. It doesn't have anything to do with that. That was our plan. And I'm only just going to introduce my Biafra story next week. When we come back in January, I will go episodic on my Biafra story because I want ordinary Nigerians to understand what happens in the times of war, how people suffer. So you stop clapping for these politicians that are clapping you into another war. The elites are the most guilty. They are looking for position. They're looking for contracts. So they will do everything to clap for injustice, clap for incompetence, clap for corrupt individuals who have enormous baggages in the public domain. Okay? Just to eat and live large. Forever? Is there anybody that has done that? Live forever? No. Okay? I wrote this book. I keep bringing it up to say, please, please, don't let us go this way again. 15 years ago. It was reissued July this year. Because I didn't like, I was not comfortable with what I was beginning to see. I didn't need any prophet. Forget all the charlatans that are prophesying this is still going to happen. Any sensible person looking at what is happening compared to what has happened, we know that Nigeria is in a place between the devil and the deep blue sea right now. You want the military to come out and be telling you they're planning another coup? You think so? The people you pushed away, the people you are saying they will go and keep quiet. They won't. And that was part of the problem with that interview with Sir Ahmadu Bello. The arrogance, the no grace. Okay, that is why it now turned Northernization into Nigerianization, using a particular group of people, which has created this much hatred from other people, even some of the groups in the North. Why did they jail Awo? Whether it was true or not that he planned the coup, why did he it's a free country, suppose so. I can campaign anywhere, convince anybody to join my party. No, wrong, we can't come to this place. Place is not for you. No, it's not about ideas. It's not about performance. It's not. What has Northernization done for the North? It has created an elite class that has no relationship with the people. And they've carried that into the national sphere. So please stop saying it's not about the tribe. Please. The regular Fulanis and the Hausas and other nationalities in the North are looking for salvation, deliverance themselves. So when you go and lump them up now, and Nigeria used federal might to oppress and emasculate the Igbos during the Civil War. So when you're now planning to use federal might to against how did the Biafra end? Has he ended? Why can't we reason? This woman beside that book, what did he know about anything? He was living in Port Harcourt she was living in Port Harcourt with her family. I'm planning a documentary. I mentioned it. I mentioned the last episode or two that, well, my friends are running away. My movie maker friends and all of that are running away from, producing a documentary for me to tell my Biafra stories. So that I've written a book, but Nigerians don't read. So you like to watch movies. So that's why I am doing the documentary. And I've launched a GoFundMe campaign. I don't have that money. If you go look all the projects I run, I call friends and people who feel that what's happening makes sense, and they support over time for over 40 years now. Okay. I've launched a GoFundMe. Is a tool that's available there in public domain for you to use if you have a worthy cause. I have launched it. Guys, if you have the details, you can put it up later. You can also see the details for the GoFundMe campaign to produce a documentary, the movie, the picture from this book, the story from this book, so that you could watch and see what happened to ordinary people like this woman. They took her 3-year-old son from her. And, well, he had never seen him again since 1967. It took grace through an Igbo man to save her, protect her, and her 3 or 2 month old baby. She told the story on the panel. I'm not going to replay it. I'm going to replay it next week. That's her interview next week when I start to tell my Biafra story. For you to understand that this is an ill wind that does nobody any good, doesn't blow any good to anybody. Nobody. It's the politicians. You say you want to change the ills by a particular group. You are replacing with your own group, not Yorubas. I said it last time. I'm saying it again. The present administration is not a Yoruba administration. It's a Tinubu administration, Tinubu empire building process. Once again, I will use, yeah, it's this guy here. Yeah? I will come to him. Use, these are the kind of persons that have the tripods for how they operate. From a state, and now they are at the federal level. So what would they do? If they did the kind of things they did when they were state governor, what would they not do now? Okay? So let's not lump everybody up. If there are military officers, there are Nigerian military officers that have gone against the codes of the service for which they enlisted. Let them answer to their conduct. If they have collaborators, those who have radicalized them, of course, people have radicalized them. The same way people have radicalized them, the same way another group also have been radicalized. So you don't have one group, please. Don't make that mistake. You don't have one group. The time for peace in Nigeria is now. The time for peaceful resolution in Nigeria is now. Now. Please, now. And that peace will not come from the political class. No, they are entrenched in their I must rule. It's you, the people of Nigeria, you, the young, the youth, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, it's you. You've created those nomenclators, and not, but well, so that you understand who you are that I'm talking about. But unfortunately, part of you have also been radicalized in the corruption spectrum. This guy here is one of them. And I'll tell you why, and I'll show you why. This is not about going after one person, no. It's a system. It's a system. And people have said it too, why now? Why didn't you just let this go? I let it go because, again, they're not the only ones. I talk about things I've experienced, not stories I've heard, no. The way Nigeria has happened to me, not, so that's, I invited people who come and tell your story here. So if you say, is that why are you complaining? That thing, the one happened to me is worse, that come and tell your own now. It's because people, victims, have not been forthcoming. They've not been speaking. That's why these people are emboldened. They go from the local government level to the state level to the national level, using our commonwealth to launder their corrupt and crooked and criminal images. And it's the rest of us that are criminals. Making the international community to joke, laugh at us. That's not. Okay, I'm going to pause here. I'm going to, like every episode, we produce a video for you. I'm going to play for you the video we produced focusing on corruption. Everything I'm saying is corruption that brings coups. When you hear them, the corruption, this, that, but when they get there too, what happens? Okay, so let's leave it at that. Is corruption that creates coups? And corruption is not about the money changing hands. It's systems. Like, we don't want the Igbos. We can't employ them. Well, instead of them, we employ foreigners. Even if we are going to employ other Nigerians, we employ them on contracts. Even if they are qualified, even if they could help. So that policy now was spread to the rest of the public service in Nigeria. And that's why you have incompetence. You have people who are not qualified to be where they are. It's not about tribal. It's about what do you have, what you bring to the table. When you go pick people that are undeserving and put them in positions, how can people give what they don't have? And when such people are in charge, guys the kind of people they would also attract people like themselves that didn't go to school, that are not qualified to now have no skills, because they don't want anybody coming to challenge them. They want people to feel that they are doing them favors by employing. That is why you have the federal civil service populated at the state level, populated by incompetent people who the only reasons they are there is because you know somebody and then you are loyal. And because you are loyal, you can do anything, not even minding your own image, not even minding your own name, not even, like this guy. I'm saying this guy, don't worry, soon. If you don't know his name, you know his name. Okay? Yeah. And by the way, it's free. It's not, this is not a case of whether I'm in Nigeria or not. No, that's not the case. Go to court. Yeah, I'll be glad. Go to court for defamation, or I'll gladly go. But I will let you know, people know what they did, what they've kept doing, which is why I had to bring this up. Because you see, if we begin to continue to cover people up or take no action, we've already taken an action. Or rather, we've already taken actions. If people do things and keep getting away, we've already, our silence is already an action. It emboldens them the more. And that's why I'm talking about this, not for personal. And on the personal issue, I am on a quest to recover what they took from me. Yes, so it's not, yeah, it's my right, okay? I suffered, my family suffered, my businesses suffered. I owed people money over what they did to me. So please, guys, let's play the video that we have for today's program, okay?
Corruption is the quiet war Nigeria has never stopped fighting. It is, however, becoming a subculture in disguise. It does not come with sirens or smoke. It is hiding in plain sight, wearing suits, uniforms, and sometimes even smiles. It walks calmly through daily life in Nigeria, collecting respect, indulgence, and cult followership instead of resistance. It is rewriting Nigeria's definition of success until truth, integrity, hard work, transparency, accountability have all become strangers in households, amongst friends, in communities, amongst colleagues in public as well as private establishments. Watch this short video, created for Say a Prayer Guys. May Nigeria never happen to you. To uncover how corruption and the fearless defiance of fella Anikulapo Kuti reveal what happens when a nation loses her moral compass and begins to mistake deception, callousness, self-destructive behaviors and practices for wisdom. Corruption in Nigeria is not simply about bribery, stolen money, or missing budgets. It begins in the small but huge things Nigeria and Nigerians excuse. Parents paying AL teachers so their children could pass examinations without studying, civil servants forging age or educational certificates to get employment or stay employed, contractors cutting corners, knowing the roads would collapse in months due to use of substandard construction materials, leaders appointing unqualified and unsuitable friends, associates, tribesmen and loyalists for public jobs. In the long run, every generation inherits the corruption it refuses to confront. The tragedy is that Nigeria's youths are watching. They see that truth, hard work, honesty, merit, and integrity no longer lead to success, that competence no longer guarantees opportunity, and that even some of the most powerful people in Nigeria have no verifiable backgrounds, no integrity and are not being accountable. So why should they strive? Why should they be honest when those who break the rules are the ones rewarded? This is how corruption has multiplied and is still multiplying, through normalization, leading to imitation. Quietly teaching that character is useless and conscience is expensive. That lesson has produced poor governance in Nigeria, leading to a broken society where ambition has no morality. That is why corruption is not merely an administrative problem. It is a generational cancerous infection. Administrations come and go, But corruption remains, adapting, evolving, and surviving through those willing to trade principles for privilege. The names at the top may change, but the system stays the same because it has found a home in the Nigerian mind, in a subculture, in plain sight. Decades ago, when Nigeria was still learning to walk as a nation, one man stood up to challenge this infection with music, words, and unshakable courage. Fela Anikulapo Kuti, born on October 15, 1938, in Abeokuta, southwest Nigeria, is widely regarded as Nigeria's greatest musical social activist. Trained in London, influenced by Pan-African ideals, in 1963, he returned home to speak against injustices in Nigeria. Through his creation of Afrobeat, Fela built a language that blended rhythm with rebellion and melody with meaning. His stage became a battleground for truth. In 1980, he released one of his most confrontational works, Authority Stealing. In that song, Fela drew a line between the thief on the street and the thief in government and private workspaces. He mocked the hypocrisy of a nation that jails the poor man who steals bread just to feed, but honors the politician who steals billions. He called it exactly what it is, authority stealing.
You be thief,
I not be thief.
you be rogue,
I not be rogue.
you be steal,
I not be steal.
you be robber,
I not be robber.
you be armed robber.
Not be armed robber.
Authority stealing, pass armed robbery.
Yes, yes, yes.
We Africans, we must do something about this nonsense.
Yes, yes, yes.
We say we must do something about this nonsense. I repeat, we Africans, we must do something about this nonsense. Because now, authority stealing, pass armed robbery.
Through Fela's music, Nigeria continues to see that corruption is not an act. It is a culture in Nigeria, a collective madness where truth is punished and pretense is promoted. Until Nigeria and Nigerians learn to hold their leaders accountable and themselves to higher standards of selfless and honest endeavors, the cycle would continue endlessly, changing faces but never changing form. In Nigeria today, that call for accountability remains unanswered. Corruption has spread through the fabric of society in politics, classrooms, churches, markets, and even families. It has become Nigeria's default reaction to hardship, the shortcut Nigerians justify when the system feels too slow. This is why the quest for a working Nigeria exists, to confront these silent killers of conscience, to reawaken a sense of national responsibility that transcends slogans and speeches. The fight against corruption is not to be fought through elections alone. It needs to be fought in the daily choices of ordinary people, in whether Nigerians cheat, lie, or simply look away. Nigerians need to make the decision today to not be a part of the corruption model that seems to say, "My thief is better than your thief," but stand as the light that guides others away from being participants and perpetrators of corrupt practices. If Nigerians must rebuild Nigeria, Nigerians must begin with truth. Young Nigerians must be taught that success without credibility is shame disguised as glory. Nigeria and Nigerians must remember that corruption is not an external force. It is the reflection of the behaviors and practices of individual members of the Nigerian society allowed to exist and fester. Want to learn more? Our live stream on this topic is linked in the description. Activate the notification bell so you do not miss any new episodes. And if you find this video valuable, we invite you to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Say a Prayer, guys. May Nigeria never happen to you, so you never miss the conversations that matter about Nigeria and Nigerians. May Nigeria happen for all Nigerians and friends of Nigeria.
Welcome back from watching the video. From that video, you would have, you knew already, before you watch the video that corruption is not just about, okay? It's about those old people there. That's why I've told you, young people. It's about your fathers and grandfathers who are still in civil service, who went in their forging age so they don't leave. If they don't leave, how are you going to get jobs to get there? If you have public people in the public space, public offices, who forge certificates to get those jobs in the first place, they would forge other things to remain there. They would, compromise the system in whatever way possible to favor them to go keep on. That is what has been happening. What was the whole story about northernization from Sir Ahmadu Bello? Oh, there were fewer northern people in the Nigerian Army, not Nigerian Army, the officer corps. You don't become an officer because you are just a man. It's a process. But what was the whole story? So there has to be, go to school, qualify, let them be integrated in the military and follow the process to become officers. No, it must be level at the same time. Everybody must have the same equal. That's how Nigeria arrived at. But is that even natural? It's not. If people have gone, you will learn and make it, put structures in place to say when all qualified people emerge, integrate them. Instead, we start to pollute the system, okay, by just picking people and quickening their, and you have half-baked professionals, in quotes, money sensitive. What, as of today, here is the thing, that's 60 years ago, more than 60 years ago. As of today, Nigeria has astute professionals from all of the ethnic nationalities in Nigeria. So you should be able to find competent hands to get things done, not because of where they come from, but because they can get things done. But is that what is happening? No. Somebody gets to power, he begins to use his own people and all of that. And why is that? People who would be loyal to him. Not people who will be loyal to Nigeria. So is there in Nigeria? Now, if the northernization policy was put in place, well, it was maybe needful. Let's explain it a little bit. Let's explain this corruption thing a little bit with something else. I touched on it when I were talking about the quest for one Nigeria. We're talking about getting admission into the federal government college. I went to a federal government college. I went to the federal government college, Ijanike, Lagos, getting admission into the Nigerian university system, the JAMB. I went to the University of Lagos for my first degree. In the same Nigeria, that somebody will be made a minister tomorrow, somebody will be a governor tomorrow, somebody will be chief medical director tomorrow. You have different entry requirements for people to get into colleges. And you sustain that over time. If it was necessary for a period of time, I think that system should be scrapped now. There are enough. Must everybody go to the university? No. No. And I mean from every part of Nigeria. I don't mean really. It's not compulsory that everybody goes to the university, but it's compulsory that everybody has a skill with which to make a contribution to better him or herself, her family, and the country generally. So this whole mad thing, everybody must go to JAMB. No. Stop. Let people choose to go to school and then qualify to go to school. Stop spoon feeding people. That's what has brought Nigeria to where it is now. So that policy of different entry requirements for different geographical, different, It should be scrapped. It's corruption of the highest order. Because somebody wants to read, let's say, English, and JAMB says the cutoff mark is 250. And you say, for some people, they must get the 250 to gain admission. And then for some other, you say, if they score 80%, 80 marks, not percent, 80 over 400, they qualify to that because they come from certain. No, that person is, first of all, is that person interested in going to school? That's the first thing. That's the first question. Is that person interested in going to school? If that person is interested in going to school, does that person know why he's going to school? If he knows why he's going to school, then he or she should learn, should study. I have stories of it, but I don't want to stretch this. I have stories of people who want to study, but from the system that I met them. I've been part of so many training programs across Nigeria, and I met people who were picked because they come from, but they themselves were eager. They wanted to. One person in particular, the owners of the program, the program managers, which was a US government-sponsored project, wanted to send this individual, but that he didn't qualify, is not participating and all of that. But I got to find out that this person was really, really interested in, and I intervened and put the person through some. By the time the person re-emerged in the group, people were surprised. What happened? What changed? Such instances abound. But to take people who are not interested in going to school and give them admission, it also then means that as you give them admission, they must pass. Somebody is not qualified. You're not qualified for the entry examination. So, but you are going to, so your guess is as good as mine, eh? Good. They also make it possible that they must go from state to state, state to state, and they graduate with people who study, read, pass the exams to qualify. And when they get out, is it the people who did not qualify even to get admission in the first place, who did not pass the exams in the first place, are taken and put in national positions, some of them immediately. I'm not telling you stories. I know what happened in my set, by people who did this service with us. Now, is it the fault of the generality of people from the North? No. Some people were creating a class, a group of people they could use to perpetuate themselves to, that was it. So so when those people also get into, they don't care about the ordinary people. They get on with their lives and they're shut off. So there's no development. They don't feel they owe anybody anything. You beg them anyway. What other form of corruption is heavier than that? You deny qualified people. You give things to people who are not interested. Well, they might be interested, but they are not motivated to do anything because they know, as they are not motivated to study. So more and more, knowing that whether they pass or not, they will go to school. They are not motivated to study. You get it now? So it's not about talking down on anybody or any group. This is what is going on. It needs to stop. That's segregated, that's, scattered admission policy for entry into tertiary institutions. It should people, if you don't pass, please forget region. Every part of Nigeria has had enough time to have people hungry by themselves to study, like every other person's, from whichever part, to go to school by themselves. So that should stop. The same thing with the federal, the federal character. Even the national football team and sporting teams, they must, even people, footballers, so that certain names and whatever. Is it not about winning games? Is it name or tribe or religion that win games? Look at what has happened in Europe. The last time France won the World Cup, people said Africa won the World Cup. Why? Blacks and the French team. When certain countries, including Germany, no blacks, no whatever, Italy, no blacks, no, when they had to integrate the best footballers that they have that were within their countries in their national teams. And what has happened? Nigeria wants to go to World Cup. It must be federal character in the football team, whether male or female, and any sports. It has not helped. It's not helping. It's corruption. So it inhibits growth and development. Okay? And because you have picked certain people and put them in places, they feel they owe you their allegiance. So they must do what you want them to do. And that system had been sustained through the public service. Okay? As of today, as at the 1st of July this year, the US government had stopped the operations of the United States Aid for International Development, known as USAID group. Present administration stopped. That was a global outcry for good reason. That organization was key to a whole lot of, mitigating the impact of a whole lot of development challenges across the globe. From HIV to malaria to tuberculosis to water, President Donald Trump, we might say it is where he doesn't, but I have been around long enough to know that when these aids are given to places, including Nigeria, we've had conferences over time about what happens to aid funds. It doesn't get to the people that the funds were meant for. They don't get to. I can tell you from experience, yes, it's true. And that's what this guy is behind me for. His name is Dr. Olusegun Oboye. I will come back to him. The first time I wrote any proposal for any project was in 1997. I designed a program to mainstream sexual and reproductive health issues in Nigerian educational for young people in Nigeria. It was a pilot. That proposal was, I'm saying 1997, January of 1997. That proposal was taken by a close family member who had attended a conference in Ethiopia where, it was Beijing, step down of the Beijing conference, girl, child education and all of that. So that's what I designed. I could give to this close family member who was running UTAID, the organization, founded to, attend to certain challenging issues about young people, especially coming to this issue of sexual and reproductive health and drug use and abuse issues. So this family member went to submit the proposal to WHO. Professor Adenike Grange, that later became minister for a very short period of time, was the person who facilitated that at that time. That proposal was submitted. I finished writing it within the first week of January 1997 and was sent. I never knew anything about that proposal till I found out by accident that WHO had approved that grant, that project had been being implemented. I didn't find out till November that year, from January. And when I found out, I was like, they used used my name for project I wrote. That project has become national. Yeah, the people who hijacked it then, who this person collaborated with, connect with to run it, have hijacked the project, has become a national program. If we talk about mainstreaming sexual and reproductive health into the school curriculum, that was it. Okay. Well, I thought that would be the last time I would have a shock about designing anything, and then, well, I was wrong. 1997, I went up, I continued my life, and that incident actually was what brought me into development work directly. I'm a businessman, I'm a media and communications person. So I decided to use what I know about media and communication to design programs to target the challenges that young people and families have. So fast forward, in 1998, we held UTAID, Nigeria held what we call Youth Agenda Summit to get young people to say what they wanted done by the Nigerian society for young people. So they released a communique that they titled, "We the Youth of Nigeria What We Want," after that summit. I decided to do something about some portions of their communique that had to do with parenting. So if you see me running a parenting program today, I didn't just jump into it. It took time. It has taken planning processes. This is what started it, what I'm telling you now. So I developed the parent-child communication on sexual and reproductive health issues program. And luckily, the Royal Netherlands Embassy in Nigeria got interested and said, wow, you can, well, we started from the church, from the Pentecostal church group in Nigeria. And they were like, you can talk about sexuality in church? You say, yes. They funded that project. Long story short, these books, yeah, the books you are going to see there, that's when I wrote those books, the very first time. Those books were my, lecture notes, speaking notes during different seminars, different projects, different workshops on parent-child communication. I went for the UNFPA in Nigeria, United Nations Fund for Population Activities, facilitated my attending a training program on development of instructional materials for family life education, which killed into what I was already, that training was in Kenya for about 12 or 13 weeks, if I remember exactly now. I had written these books then. Well, they were my, like I said, my speaking notes, but because people needed takeaways after, photocopy, and eventually my production team designed cover and we are printing the books, printing them from printers, color printer, I mean, jet set, I mean, yeah, laser for the inner pages, and we'll bind, trim, they will look like books. And it was limited because it was a tedious production and very expensive, you know, but we were producing for people who wanted the books. It was part of project costs. So we'll produce and give to people as resource materials. I never sold. But when I returned from that training in Nairobi, I decided to mass produce the book because land I updated them. And we decided to do a public presentation, 1999, late November, I think, late November or late December, 1999. We invited people, was it like a stakeholder kind of thing. So I invited the governor, the then newly elected governor of Lagos State. It was called Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu at that time as governor. Invited several people, but we invited him as special guest of honor. And they sent my very good friend, you know, Dr. Adewusi. That's the first time, that's how I met him. That's the first time. I didn't know him before then. He didn't know me before then. To represent the governor at the public presentation of these books. By the way, what you are looking at, well, you can even see the dates there. They were only released, this is second edition from that time to now. This is the second edition of these books on the 27th of this month. What you are looking at, this is not what they looked like then. Okay. Dr. Desalu, you know, when he delivered the message from the governor then, praised the efforts, the project, the idea, and I'm like, well, this is what the state government, part of kind of what the state government would want to be encourage, would want to encourage, and invited me to join. There was this huge, I can't remember what it was called then, but eventually I got to serve in the Health and Human Services subcommittee for the committee the state government has set up to develop, well, I think what eventually became the blueprint for, you know, running Lagos. I served in the Health and Human Services, that subcommittee of that whole big group. It was Dr. Desalu that invited me to come in there. And I went and I met Professor Oluke Ransome-Kuti, who headed that subcommittee. And the first time I met him, that was the very first time I met him. And I walked up to him and I said, sir, my father talked so much about you. And he said, who is your father? And I told him, said, oh, okay, I remember him, you know. My father had worked with him when he was developing the primary health model, you know, that has now gained global acclaim. This man developed it. My father worked with him, field research team then. I attended several meetings. Eventually, Lagos State government, the HIV and AIDS scourge or whatever pandemic was raging about at that time, which was why I developed the, you know, this issue of having to train parents to be the ones to educate, give their children sexual and reproductive health information, because they know their culture, they know their religion, they know their family values and etiquettes. And the Lagos State HIV/AIDS Foundation was eventually formed, you know, to handle HIV and AIDS issues in Lagos. Of course, I was in the IEC committee. Was prominent in that committee. There are people who are on this call who are listening, who I'm sure are here. You know, we threw ourselves into the work of prevention education for HIV and AIDS. And the books will continue to run our parent-child communication programs independently. At that time, there was no grants for any. It was just, you know, the committee, the foundation worked in committees. Like I said, I worked in the IEC committee. IEC is Information, Education and Communication Committee, which was about education and all of that. Eventually, the national Professor Ronke Akinshete was part of the, you know, foundation, was there with us, you know, very lovely woman, very helpful, very approachable in terms of prof. As a matter of fact, I gave her these books, you know, the draft before, and now mass produce them further. I mean, like normal printing now, you know, to look at and make her comment, and she did. And that was about the time she got picked to, she got picked to to head what had become the National Action Committee on AIDS, on HIV and AIDS, by the President Obasanjo administration. Professor Ronke said, we were like, oh, we lost this woman. You know, I wasn't really able to get her feedback from the books. She said something, but she never really, because she got too busy, went to Abuja and Lagos. Eventually, due to that framework, the global framework for tackling HIV and AIDS, he had the national, he had the state, and he had the local government, he had the global fund, what was called the global fund. And Lagos was well ahead of the other states in terms of HIV and AIDS prevention, education, and management programming. And we played a key role. If I say we played a key role, I will show you. I like data. I will show you evidence that we played a key role, because the people who are in charge said so, say so, and it's documented. And I know we did. So, long story short, there was what was called HAF1, HIV/AIDS Fund. It was Global Fund, World Bank loan, as it were, grant, but it was a loan. It was a loan in the sense that if you got the grant and you didn't perform, you are supposed to pay it back. We had that understanding. So we applied for Lagos HAF1. This was 2004. We wrote the proposal, the selections were made. UTAID, which was the organization, was successful, part of the organizations that were successful. And then letters were sent out. So you have been picked, okay, grant making workshop, contract signing workshop, all of those were done. And excuse me. By that time, my good friend Tade Ogidon, who is a movie, I've mentioned him here, had also challenged me to write a screenplay for a television serial for national dissemination on HIV and AIDS. What I wrote became what is today known as King Obika, The Harvest of Wild Wind. That was the title of, and it was funded by USAID again through Family Health International, that was headed at that time by Dr. Olufemi Oke. Please, guys, could you just help me to put up Dr. Olufemi Oke and that group, the pictures of that group, please, including Professor Ransom Kriti. Tade produced that TV series was called Behind the Siege. I wrote the script for the screenplay for King Wubika, A Harvest of Wild Winds, which was part of, and I noticed that the play was, when they had been put out, produced and released for playback on national television, that NTA had started putting political campaign, programs or events in the slots that FHI had already paid for to run. That happened for like 1 week, 2 weeks, and I approached FHI to say, "Are you guys not watching what's happening? You paid for this thing. They're not playing. They're not, Then also decided I was going to do something on my own. For another reason too. The screenplay, somebody else started claiming is one that wrote the script. I'm like, are you like, seriously? Is this happening? And by then I had I was also privileged to because we're using drama to educate young people in schools. So I got invited, I sent abstracts for papers to a conference known as the Entertainment Education Conference. I attended the one that's EE4, 2004 in Cape Town, South Africa. And that opened my eye to a few things when I listened to certain colleagues present some papers. I had even forgotten I had written King Wubika until SABC, South African Broadcasting Corporation, were so encouraged by my papers about working with young people. They had a national TV serial called Sacha that time about HIV and AIDS. They approached me and asked me if I would like to work with their production in Nigeria. Of course, I agreed. So we agreed, and they made provision for me to get the tapes, the CDs for that production to be used in Nigeria. And I returned and I developed what I called the PIPE model for peer education. PIPE is participatory interactive peer education model, using the narrowcast concept. Nigeria is still today has problems with electricity and all of that. And how do you use, we don't have money to pay television slots. So I had to develop a model that could be taken to young people where they are. Okay, that's why what informed my using the narrowcast concept, meaning it's the same principle of television, but television is being from one place to several. But narrowcast, you take the same materials to a cohort, a group, to where they will normally be, play it back to them and make it instructional, educational for them by way of training part of them as facilitators. And that was what we presented as our project for Lagos Half One. So it was equipment intensive, multimedia projectors, generators, such a to go from place to place, more than one place. We actually wrote the proposal. The budget was to have 10 units, okay, to have 10 narrowcast units across secondary schools and 2 community centers in Lagos, which meant projectors, not one. It was 10 units, but we had, the budget we wrote could only cover 4 sets of equipment. So we used alternate days. When it came to the time of releasing the funds, I was asked to bring 15% of the money. And I said, okay. When I said I was asked, it was not general, it was this guy, this person here. We called a meeting in their office, General Hospital, Lagos Island. We sat across the table. I was looking at Richie, look, and I said, excuse me. He said, well, they are not saying you should kill them, to just do something. I said, no, I don't just do something, please. I don't. okay, this money you are asking for, I calculated, I said, look, the whole budget was about a little over 4 million naira. So you're asking me to go bring 15%. 15% was over 700,000. That's okay. Which aspect of this project should we not implement? He said, look, do you have to buy all this equipment? Do you have to buy all? I said, did you read the proposal? The people who, reviewed and selected, have done and seen. So if they reviewed and selected, why was it not at that point that you said no? Because of course it wasn't your point. You are now, they have reviewed, they selected, and you're asking me to bring 50. That's okay, fine. Okay, 15%. Okay, tell me the name of the person I should put on the check. Say, no, you want to put people in trouble. Oh, it's trouble. Because where everything is budgeted. Even me that's running the program, I had no remuneration. It was my own counterpart, part of our counterpart contribution for the project. I had no allowance at all for running a 1-year project. And you're saying I should go and bring over 700,000. I said, well, I got up, I said, no, I'm not. Some days later, we are now, introducing, I had printed King Ubika. I decided, okay, if this people, NTA is playing pranks with somebody else is claiming he's one that wrote it. So I said, okay, I went to printed the material. And to share our findings from our pilot from the pipe model, we held a national stakeholders workshop in a hotel called Excellence Hotel in the Ogba area of Lagos, Southwest Nigeria, and invited Nigeria from Naka to the States to key, And once again, my friend, Dr. Adewusi, attended to, including my very good friend, my brother, Dr. Tunuhima, reviewed the tabloid we also introduced that day. Okay, I think there's a picture of myself and Dr. Desalu where I was handing him the bag, project bag, the project bag contained the books and some other materials that we had developed that time. And he was leaving, I was handing it to him. That was about the time that, they were supposed to release the fund. As a matter of fact, the Lagos State HIV AIDS, it had become Lagos State AIDS Control Agency, was also having, I was using the banquet hall. We were using the banquet hall of that hotel. We had booked it, for this national stakeholders workshop on disseminating our findings about the pipe model. The Lagos State AIDS Control Agency was having a workshop upstairs in another room, another hall upstairs. So Dr. Desalu, okay, that picture, you can see me, I was down there. That was 2004. Okay. I was handing him that. That's King Ubika, the printed version of the material. And that's my friend to the right, Tadeo Gidon. And then Dr. Tony Oima that reviewed the tabloid we also put out on reproductive health issues, was called The Big Issue that time. And I received a call. Somebody that they knew I respected very much was like, hey, you better give them what they want, or they, just give them what. I say, give what? I'm not. Long story short, they released 50% of that grant. And we went ahead and implemented. It was to be released in tranches by performance. Of course, we performed. When we went to now ask for the remaining funds, they say, the 15% persist. And I said, I'm not giving any bribe. It was this guy, him. I knew the terms of that grant. If we default, we'll refund. Why would I? I had to. Personal monies, borrowed monies, we executed that project to perfection. Wrote the report, sent in the report. They don't release my money because by that time it had become my money because I had to go borrow money to finish the project. It wasn't even UTAID, it's not organization anymore. I had to borrow money. So it was my money that we used to finish the project and submitted the report. They refused to release the remaining 50%, which was over 2 million naira. It was around 2.4, so 2.2 or 2.4. It's over 2 million anyway, naira then, 2004, 2005. But do you know the cheeky part of this whole thing? When the World Bank came calling to review successful projects, these guys had the guts to bring World Bank to our office, say this is one of, and my staff was like, sir, report them, tell the World Bank they have not paid your money. I said, no, have I died? We did the project to satisfaction. If it wasn't satisfied, would they bring the World Bank to my office to say this was one of our most successful projects? No, I said we have won. And he was still gloating. It was still, boasting. If you don't do it, we will not give you that money. This guy, a young Nigerian, by the time I wrote that first proposal that I told you about, World Health Organization, he was still in school. He stood there. And you know what he said the money was for? He says for their contribution to the party. Which party? What's my business? What concerns politics? See how these people run. What happened? This was their front. And this guy spent 14 years in that position as head of project, Lagos State AIDS Control Agency. And UTAID was not the only organization that was given that grant. There were about 14 or 16 organizations that got half one. Part of our punishment was they blacklisted us. We didn't, even when we were adjudged one of the best for half one, they didn't include us in half two. They included the people who gave them the 15%. Nigeria. Limiting the impact and the benefits that the pipe model would have. I'm not saying it because I'm the one that designed it. No. Till today, Nigeria is still resource challenged. That model still is key for community mobilization and peer education programming. Did it end there? No. I stopped writing proposals because I won't give bribe. But they knew our capacity. They knew what we could do. There was another relationship with another group called the AIDS Prevention Initiative in Nigeria, APIN, to train teachers to be able to give sexual prevention education to their students in Lagos State secondary schools. UTAID was one of the organizations picked. I didn't understand the scenario that at the time they called us to say, okay, come, we want you to handle this project. Meanwhile, this time, they just asked me to go and see somebody. Please, could you put up the pictures for Dr. Olomolei, Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu, and Dr. Dutolu? Please, thank you. They asked me to go to see. I knew Dr. Olomolei, very lovely elderly man. And I went to see him in his office. He said, well, doctor, this one, this is not what you're proving. I'm not difficult. I only just said, how do we write a proposal? This is how much it's going to cost, and you say I should say, okay, okay, where is your? They had given us the contract to do the training in some local government. That I think about four NGOs, non-governmental organizations were picked to handle a particular number of local government. The training for teachers in about, I think about 6 or so local governments, but grouped together. And then we were asked to bring, proposal for including cost for the training for each phase. So we did, we presented, I went to see Dr. Lomani, and he looked at it and said, Doctor, okay, yeah, I know you can do this job. And what about the materials? I said, okay, yeah, the instructional material. We had by that time, we are dependent on running our programs by leveraging on resources we were making from, the distribution of some instructional materials on parent-child, on HIV and AIDS information. And they had selected those materials as the instructional materials for the training for the whole state. And I said, well, we sell them, meaning we put them as resource materials for people who register, not that we sell them one by one. They become part of the resource, put on the package when people register to attend our programs in schools, PTAs. That's part of what we give them. What they pay for attending the program, that helped us because we stopped writing for grants, which they won't give, which when they give, they ask for bribes. And I wouldn't do bribe. Okay, I'm not saying I'm the same to everything I do in life, but I wouldn't, because I wouldn't be able to say what I'm saying here today, and that's it across board. It was not because of any. If this person didn't do what he did, why would I be putting him up here? Okay, somebody will say, but it's not Tinubu, or it's not what did I mention Tinubu here? But whose government was it? Whose party? Where were they going to take the money to? If it was true that, oh, it's a contribution they were going to give to their party. What's my business with party? What was the foreign partners brought funds for you to attend to development issues? Things you should do by yourself, things you should do on your own, you should fund. People bring funds, and all you do is devise means to siphon those funds. Dr. Lomale, we agreed on the quantity of the materials that we needed to produce for that project for the entire state. And we produced, and the first phase went. Meanwhile, the budget that we sent, which was, we did the costing to, fit what budgets, what were, advised to work our budgets to be. And then we were like, okay, doctor, this, okay, I've seen this, but then this thing, if it was $10, he would say, no, you can do this with $4. And he would write $4 on his own personal check bank account and still collect the budget that we had given him. So it was not Lagos Saka. It was not, and by the way, sorry, I missed this. APIN partnered with the Lagos State government to fund that project. But New Era Foundation hijacked that partnership. APIN worked directly with NGOs. New Era hijacked the grant and then picked NGOs like us. That means the Lagos Saka gave the contract to New Era, and then New Era now walked through and then picked somebody like Dr. Lomle, who fronted for them to now work with the NGOs. Who owned New Era? Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu. That wasn't the last thing about Nigeria happening to me through them over this issue. When we finished phase one, despite the fact that the budgeted cost was not what was released to us, I'll tell my staff, we are here to do development work. Well, I'm glad, I'm happy to train teachers anyway. But then, to my surprise, when you do such projects, the teachers that would come, part of our job was to make sure that teachers attended. We went to all the schools, met with the principals, got release letters for the teachers. The very first day for each center, teachers will fill the hall. All the teachers that were supposed to be there would come. By the second day, maybe you get half or less. So we had to go back to the school to find out what happened. And they're like, why should we be coming to the training with our money to pay transport? I'm like, no, there's budget for transport in this. That budget was not released to us. Okay, they're supposed to. They say, don't worry, we'll handle that. The teachers were not given transport fare. They were supposed to come to, if you know Lagos, Badagry, to come to Apapa for training with their own money. Why? And part of what we are mandated to do after each phase was to write reports. That report needed to include our interaction with the trainees, how many attended, if there were any issues. Of course, we went back to know whether it was the principals that were stopping the teachers from. They said no, that the teachers were complaining. First, they will miss their classes. Second, which they will still have to teach anyway somehow. Then they were expected to use their own transport. No, so they didn't come. We put that in our report because we have to say why we did. And we are mandated from the terms in the paper, in the contract, to do 3 reports. One to the SACA themselves, our own copy, and then one to APIN, AIDS Prevention Initiative in Nigeria. And we did. We sent the reports. And the next thing we had was that we were whistleblowers. We were reporting the wife of the governor. We were reporting the agencies. I'm like, wow. We wrote it. This is what happened. And you said we should write the report and send. He said, no, you should have sent everything to us. No, that's not what you stated here. We did what you asked us to do. Second phase, they still called us because they knew they needed us to run the program. At the risk of sounding immodest, we were solid in that field. I arrived Dr. Olomolehin's office again to present the budget, and he did the same thing again, wrote what he liked on the check and said, well, you should be able to do something with this. I said, okay, what about the instructional material? He said, don't worry, we'll give you. And he went to go and bring. Lo and behold, our material, my material, they had gone, New Era Foundation, Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu's NGO, had gone to reprint our material, removing our name completely, remove UTAID completely, and branded the reprinted materials with New Era Foundation. I said, doctor, I'm not doing this project in number 1. Number 2, I'm going to sue. This is, my intellectual property rights violated and all of that and all of that. And this elderly man, I went to the Lagos State AIDS Control Agency itself. I met one Mrs. Akiola who was was an elderly lady to the middle age that time or whatever. But I had known her before the foundation itself was founded. We used to invite her as a resource person for our community programming because she was a community health educator before she got employed. So we were close. And I went to her, she said, come, look, please. I heard you say you are going to sue. If you sue, is Dr. Olomolehin that he's almost retiring. It's him that they will push everything to. That was the only reason I didn't sue them. Do you know where this guy is now? That is the reason I'm doing this program, why I'm bringing him on. This is what has put Nigeria in the problem that he is in. This guy, right now, is permanent secretary, Ministry of Health, Lagos State. He was in that position of head of projects for Lagos State Control Agency for over 14 years. Now, calculate 15% from the first 16 organizations that got half one. I don't know how many they gave half two. I don't know how many other halves. Now calculate all that development projects that development partners provided funding to the Lagos State Aid Control. So there should be a forensic audit of the funds that the Lagos State Aid Control Agency received to run programs at that time under this guy.
Recording in progress.
Sorry, we had some there are some technical issues on YouTube. Sorry. Sorry. There's some technical issues on YouTube. I think they're working on correcting it. Okay, we are back now. So sorry. I think we're off a bit now. Don't worry, we're rounding up the stream. We went for the Signal National Convention, I think the very first one, in Abuja. And I ran into Dr. Oluwole Odutolu. By the way, Dr. Oluwole Odutolu was one of the persons who lent me money. When these guys seized the 50% for half one grant, yes, Dr. Odutolu, thank you. I'm thanking you again. Over 20 years ago. And that's why I put all their pictures there from Dr. There are stories about, that's why I said Nigeria still needs public servants like them. Not this one, not this one. These are the ones that are there now. These are the ones that the present administration in Nigeria has used to surround themselves in every post. That is why a federal minister could be telling a journalist, a small boy, what do you know? Why? Simple. What is the cost per kilometer? I'm a professor. You shouldn't, as a public servant, you shouldn't be accountable. You shouldn't be held accountable. Dr. Odutolu, as I ran into him at that meeting in Abuja, it's like, oh, by the way, doctor, we've seen your reports, and then I'm actually leaving this meeting early. We're going to have a meeting with partners in Lagos, and we want to tell them that we want to work directly with the NGOs henceforth. If not so, we'll leave Lagos. APIN left Lagos. So what do you think happened? They refused. Of course, Mrs. Tinubu will refuse. I'm the wife of the governor. It is my own, whatever. APIN took their money and left Lagos. Go and check. These are historical facts. Dr. Odutolu is at the World Bank now. These are facts. But this guy is still there. He's permanent secretary of the Ministry of Health, still helping them collect money. That's supposed to be for public good, for public health outcomes, positive public health outcomes. You wonder why there are problems in hospitals. You wonder why yes. Rich, just do something. Nobody's asking you to save the world. Just do something. No, I don't do something. You don't know how many people he would have told, just do something, just show you did something. No. This is a known story. It's not hidden. And Dr. Way, anybody who knows you who's hearing this, I want my money with interest, and I will get it. putting, yeah, I mean, court, whatever. However, okay, it's not a threat. It's my money. You put, if I put 2 million naira in a fixed deposit in 2025, sorry, in 2005, 20 years later, it won't be two. At any rate, even if it's a Richie, come on, 2 million naira. Excuse me, you guys don't even have an understanding of what's going on. How many Nigerians do you think have seen 1 million naira in their entire lives? This one now, because you're calling billions, you're calling trillions, and you think money is just me. I'm an ordinary person, a hardworking person. Every kobo goes into the projects that I run. I've been working in the development sphere ever since. I'm not praising myself. Okay? Is it only Lagos State? No. I had a relationship with at least 4 or 5 other states. Ekiti is one of them. When Governor Niyi Adebayo, Otumba Niyi Adebayo was the governor, DFID had the Southwest Regional Office in Ado-Ekiti. To show you that this is not, we're talking corruption, and to show you that it's not about this guy, but then it's a case study of something I know, something that affects me. My workers suffered. My staff suffered. My family suffered over go and bring bribe. But I made sure we didn't default. We executed that project to the letter. And they brought, and you know, last year, before I conclude with the Ekiti thing, to show you people that it's not, when you say, look, what we are talking about, you are perfect, you are not perfect. Look, I will show you. My very good friend, Dr. Adewusi, last year, during my 65th birthday, yes, I'm an old man, I told you, 66 now, so in another few days' time, I'll be 66. My 65th birthday sent me a very, very heartwarming message. Guys, please, could you help me put up? And in that message, it's like a recapping, okay? It's like a recapping of my journey with the Lagos State government, okay? And then what we're able to do. So I'm not making boasts. I'm not just talking blue. He represented the governor at my book presentation. I worked with him. He knows our capabilities and the quality of our job. And he didn't hold back when he sent me this message last year, December, on the 8th of December last year. Okay? We are talking about holding individuals accountable. He asked me for bribe. Whether he's representing any group or whatever, I don't know. Okay? When we get to the point, he will now say who are the people who sent him to collect the bribe now for the party. Okay? And going forward, these are not the kind of persons anybody should put in any public office. Okay? The Ekiti one. I was involved with some civil society group in Ekiti. A young woman then, Mrs. Margaret Faboyo, yeah, I think that's her name, was the administrative, I think, person running the office, DFID office, regional office in Ado-Ekiti then. Please, could you help me put up Mrs. Faboyo's picture and file? That was when the Adebayo government, when the Fayose administration that came power after the Adebayo administration. They now, the story now was that Fayose was like, okay, the grants that was meant for the projects and it should be given to him, given to his government. But that's not how development partners work. And of course, the development partners, the DFID said, look, we can't work this way. If this is not going to work, we'll leave Ekiti. Just like APIN, if you don't want us to work directly with NGOs, we'll leave Lagos, left Lagos. DFID, these are historical facts. DFID moved out of Ekiti over the same thing, corruption. Why am I not making Fayose, former governor Ayodele Fayose, a case study, main case study in this? The reason is simple. I'm not sure anybody will put Fayose forward to be president of Nigeria anytime. I mean, when I say put forward, he would contest. He has been president, he has contested. I mean, like him actually eventually arriving at Aso Rock. I don't see the route for that. So his thing is still localized and there's no issue. But this person there now, these are his lieutenants. This is health. So he has other ones in other places. Those are the people who surround him. And that's the person you are clapping for whom you believe Nigeria should burn. No. No. By the way, I'm only going to just give 5 minutes, please, for the quiz for today. Sorry, it should have come up much earlier. The quiz today, and that's what we'll round up this stream today, okay? The quiz today is about what is corruption. What you are there to gain is still a copy of my Biafra story. Biafra, lest we forget. You answer all three correctly, I will ship an autographed copy of Biafra, lest we forget, to you. Okay, and to this edition, we have made it easier. So we just multiple choice, just pick the answers and put your response in chat. We'll do that in 5 minutes. While you are doing that, I'll just be, writing up this stream so that I can tell you the results to finally say bye-bye. Okay? Why have I spoken up? I've spoken up. I've lived 20 years. That money has not killed me. But when we don't get to hold people accountable, they got bolder. They get rewarded the more. This guy has been rewarded. He's not permanent secretary. There are others like him that you know. Okay? So the quiz is there. The quiz, the question 1, and the suggested responses. 2, the suggested, responses. Just pick 1. 3 suggested responses. Okay? And then we'll conclude. Anybody who gets them, no matter the number that gets them right correctly, all 3 must be gotten right. Okay? I will send an autographed copy of Biafra, lest we forget. And next episode, I'm going to do an introduction of my Biafra story, but I'm going to really mainstream Hajia Maria Aliu into that story as a general background. And like I said, after next week, we are taking a break from Say Prayer Guys May Nigeria Never Happen to You until the 2nd of January 2026. So we need to go and recharge and redesign, do some new things on the program. And we'll return. When we return in January I would go step by step in my Biafra story till I finish what is in that book. And I mean, of course, extrapolating to the situation we have in Nigeria. Like I said, when we designed this program, though I wasn't comfortable with things that I didn't know by now, Nigeria will be in the situation that it is politically, socio-politically right now. It's not in a good place. So anybody that is feeling that, all things they are not normal. Nigeria is back to 1965, leading up to 1966, 67. Yes. It's just the dramatics personnel that have changed, roles have been reversed. Is the same scenario, all over again. The military have been radicalized by politicians and they have taken sides. That's the point. The military that's not supposed to, they have taken sides. It's going to take a lot of work to, douse this inferno that is, smoldering. Yeah. But it can be done if people put ego and self-interest aside and think Nigeria. Okay. I'm seeing responses. I hope you have the addresses and names of these people. Okay. I hope you have the names and addresses so that I can announce. I will not announce names. I'm only just say the right options. And if you have picked any of those right options, you'll be expecting, you will need to leave your email with your shipping address, okay, in chat, or send it to us by email so that it's not in the public domain. You can send directly to us by email. Our email, you go to our YouTube channel. Of course, you need to have, well, you can't even send in this if you are not subscribed. So please subscribe, please support us, support this program, support this project. It's not about me, okay? I'm only just telling you my stories. You can say the things I have had to absorb over time. But if we are not talking, we have already taken sides against the people. We're enabling these guys. And that shouldn't happen, okay? Shouldn't happen. Okay? Shouldn't happen. So I'm just going to announce, yep, we have, I'm only just going to announce to you the rights options. So if you picked any, if you pick them, like I said, leave your, send us your shipping address by email, and then we'll ship the, okay, we have somebody, a lot of BBC, BAB, BCC, we have BCA. Okay. Okay, we have a couple of what they write, just two people right now, and then I'm going to end this because once I say the right options, the competition is over, and it will only be those people that got it right that I would send autographed copies of Biafra Lest We Forget to. Okay, now the right options are B for A for question 1, C for question 2, and B for question 3. Okay, so it's B, C, B. So if you answered B, C, B, kindly send us your shipping address by email. And I have just two people who got BCB from the whole entry of the entries that are here. I have this 1, 2, 3, 16 entries. Okay, but there are only two that got it right. So we'll share the book there. So this is where we will say thank you for joining us today. This has been a long, protracted edition of the program. We don't want it to go this long, but then what should we have left out? And it don't bring issues like this and don't go into details. So you don't, it's not like any smack up. It's not any smack campaign. My interest is Nigeria. I've always said that. My interest is Nigeria. It's not about individual. Individuals are small. Nigeria is bigger than anybody. Okay? So until we come your way again, please continue to follow us, subscribe to support us. And please donate to our GoFundMe campaign to produce Biafra Lest We Forget as a documentary, as a movie, for free. I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to put it in the public domain for people to see. Okay. Thank you so very much. Till come your way again. Okay. Bye-bye.